Hey everybody, I'm Nate.
And I'm Joe.
Welcome back to Lickbait. Today we are going to be discussing basic game mechanics for the World of Darkness. So, get yourself a beverage. I've got a nice cup of coffee here. Joe's got some Mountain Dew, and we're going to sit back and get you all the info you need about how to do the basic roles and what the basic mechanics are for Vampire the Masquerade in the World of Darkness game setting.
That's it. Today we're going to get started with dice. World of Darkness is very unique with the dice that they use. Sorry, Dice Goblins, we're going to make you break up all those beautiful sets you have, because the only dice we use in World of Darkness are 10-sided dice, or D10s. Once again, this makes the game very unique. It's not a D20 based system similar to Dungeons & Dragons or Pathfinder, but D10s all around.
So, cool thing about this is you have two different kinds of dice. You've got your standard dice, or one color, then you have your hunger dice, another color. Generally black and red. I use green and red because I'm weird. It's easier to find the green dice when they roll off the table. But your standard dice work just like any other die. Roll it, get your number. But the hunger dice are specific for when your character has levels of hunger. And these can cause the outcome of the rolls to be different.
Speaking of outcomes, because we're a D10 based game, the way the D10 system works is instead of rolling a D20 and saying, oh look, I beat a difficulty rating. In World of Darkness, instead of having a difficulty rating similar to many D20 based games, the D10 games are pretty much success or failure. You roll a D10, if you get a 6 or more, you succeed at what you're trying to do. If you get a 5 or less, it didn't work out so well. There are ways to kind of buffer this, and even ways to re-roll.
Yeah, one of the easiest ways to do a re-roll is to spend a willpower point. You can spend a point of willpower and re-roll up to 3 non-hunger dice, which, I mean, it's a pretty nice mechanic. It's not something you want to use all the time unless you've got a really high willpower pool, but it is a good way to be able to come in a clutch and save that bad roll and bring it back.
Now, if you've ever rolled a nat 20 and had that feeling of euphoria to get that critical hit on the dragon in D&D, don't worry, you haven't lost that. It's just done a little differently with the D10 system. A critical success is technically when you roll 2 10s in your dice pool. When you roll 2 10s, those 2 successes suddenly become 4. Now, when you add in the hunger dice, this can make things a little more interesting. If you happen to succeed with critical successes with your hunger dice, you get what's called a messy critical. Not very good for trying to lockpick a door, but really good if you're trying to rip the head off an enemy.
Oh yeah, and they don't call them messy criticals for nothing. I mean, they have turned spectacular in some of our games.
That is absolutely true. The hunger dice makes for a lot of fun storytelling mechanics, and you get to make some very interesting scenes. Maybe you do get that messy critical while trying to pick that lock. Well, you picked the lock, but now the whole door is torn off the hinges.
Hey, the door came open. It doesn't matter.
It opened. That's all. It's all good, right? On the other end, if those hunger dice of yours roll a critical failure or roll anything 2 and below, if 2 of them happen, you get what's called a bestial failure. This, for the most part, once again, if you're trying to do something nice and neat and easy and careful, it's not going to work. It's going to show you just how bad you messed up by tearing that door off the hinges. The fun part is, if you roll these 1s or 2s on your hunger dice and you're trying to do something that's a bit more bestial, a bit more feral, a bit more aggravated, you could say, they actually count as successes. So these failures that may seem really bad at first when you first read through the mechanics can actually turn out for the better.
But they can cost you, though, right?
Well, they can cost you.
I mean, you can end up losing some of your backgrounds or some of your merits off of it, lose your status, possibly some of your herd, things like that. Stuff that we'll get into in a later video when we start talking about backgrounds and everything. But it's just because you actually accomplish what you're trying to do at the moment doesn't mean that it's necessarily a success, because you're still going to have to pay for it.
You pay for everything in this game. Don't worry about that. Everything has its own weights and measures.
No good deed goes unpunished.
Ain't that the truth?
Okay, so next we're going to get into dice pools. One of the things I like about the dice pool setup for 5e is that it's way more fluid than it used to be. You're not bound to just physical skills on top of physical attributes. You can actually mix and match across your whole attributes and your whole skills in a lot of cases. A good example of this is going to be firearms. So if you're shooting from the hip, that's going to be firearms plus your dexterity. If you're taking time to aim the shot and everything, that on the other hand will be firearms and composure. So it's a social one. So you can really, get a nice broad spectrum of different things that you can use. So if you're not the big beefy guy that threw everything into your physical attributes, you can still stand out in a lot of ways. So it gives players a lot more freedom to play with the idea that they have for a character concept without having to worry about number jockeying to make sure that they're no good in a fight.
Absolutely. I think it really makes for a much more fun and dynamic dice pool mechanic in totality. Really allows you to, like Nate said, play around with your different attributes and skills to kind of fit the character that you want.
And that's one of the great things about the storytelling system is it's not so dependent on dice rolls all the time. I mean, this is a game where the rule of cool really comes out to shine. A lot of times storytellers are encouraged that if somebody comes up with a good idea, something out of the box, they describe it well in game, let it fly, man. We do a lot of times, we don't even make rolls for something because you're a supernatural creature. Okay. Should you be able to jump off of a 2-story building and hit the ground running? Yeah, chances are you can, unless you just happen to be like super skinny and weak or like you're a little kid or something. But for the most part, we're going to go with the rule of cool on it and be like, yeah, that sounds awesome. You can do it.
Absolutely. Even in the books, normal core books, when you get into the storytelling sections, it specifically talks about allowing your players to just make the game fun. The storytelling aspect of World of Darkness is phenomenal because it's not just the storyteller themselves creating the story, but what the players choose to do, how they choose to act, and the rolling is a secondary aspect to it.
Oh, yeah. Once again, it's one of the greatest things about this game because it lets you concentrate a lot more on the story, a lot less on dice rolling. Now, that being said, for those of you that love the clickety-clack of dice rolling all the time, which, I mean, we do have some here, we're going to do a quick little thing here. We're going to give an example of a dice roll, how it would work in game. Joe's going to take the place of the storyteller. I'm going to take the place of the player. And Joe's going to describe a scene to me, and we're going to figure out what the roll would be and how the dice pools would work on it. So, Joe, you ready?
Absolutely. So for you guys who don't know yet, Nate here is a player in one of my games, and the character he plays is named Billy. Well, Billy just woke up as the sun is set, and he's feeling a bit peckish. He's had to use that supernatural blood of his to rise and have a flush of health to his cheeks so he doesn't look like a desiccated corpse walking around the downtown area. He goes in search for food and finds himself in a small alleyway where an inebriated gentleman suddenly stumbles into to find a small secluded spot to relieve himself. Billy, is this a intended target for you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that guy's definitely going down.
All right. So, in order for Billy to get a hold of this man and try to feed, we're going to take his strength attribute plus his brawl skill and do what's called a contested roll, where the mortal gentleman just trying to take a piss in an alleyway is going to have the same type of roll, but probably a bit less in his dice pool because he's immortal. So, Billy, I believe with your strength and brawl, you have a dice pool of 6.
Yeah.
Why don't you go ahead and roll that for me?
Okay. Here we go.
1, 2, 3, 4 successes, with 2 of them being 10s, which means you got a critical success on that. Your 4 successes now goes up to 6.
Yep. Awesome.
Now for the mortal man who's got a smaller dice pool of 4. 1, 2, 3 successes. He fails. So Billy now has a hold of him and sinks his fangs deep into this guy's neck. What are you doing, Billy?
Oh, I'm going to drain him like a kid with a Capri Sun. I mean, come on.
Takes him a short amount of time. It's not an instantaneous, I suck all the blood out of your body and you become an emptied husk immediately. But Billy's got it. He is officially fed, no more hungered, no more hunger dice, and he's ready for his night to continue.
Oh yeah, yeah. Now all I got to do is get rid of the body.
That is usually one of the bigger problems when it comes to feeding in such a way in Vampire the Masquerade.
Yeah, yeah. I'm the problem child. I know. All right, this is where we're going to end this for today. We will be continuing this in part 2. If you look in the description above or in the linked comment, you'll see it posted up there as soon as it comes up. And hope to see everybody there. Once again, for Lickbait, this is Nate.
And I'm Joe.
Y'all have a good one.